President Bola Tinubu has reassured international economic communities and Nigerians that there will be no stone left unturned in his administration's multifarious efforts to stimulate the economy and make it work for the greatest good of all Nigerians. To steadily ensure measured growth and enhance public enlightenment on public policy outcomes, President said every effort across sectors will be documented and periodically reviewed for performance verification and public presentation, while assuring that his administration would address issues that devalue the lives of Nigerians with a focus on security, economy, jobs, agriculture, infrastructure, monetary policy, fuel subsidy, among others. Now let's take a look at some of these efforts made by the president to salvage the economy. Indeed, I have joining me a practicing chartered accountant, management consultant, and lead consultant, Chief Executive Officer 2612, if I'm correct, 2612,
yeah.
Consulting and Professional Services, Mr. Adebayo, Peter Adebayo, FCA. It's good to have you in the studio after a while. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yes. So, good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm delighted to be here once again.
Great.
And thank you for not disappointing your global audience by doing a fantastic job.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I appreciate that. Well, I was thinking around good governance and what it means for us as an economy. I know for companies, you need to entrench good governance one way or the other. It's a policy that is pushed everywhere, and people believe that any company that does well with good governance will thrive. But with an economy, how do we marry good governance to economic growth and development?
Yes, thank you once again, Tolu.
Yeah.
Let me just say, first and foremost, no one can doubt the fact that the Nigerian economy is going through troubles.
Yes, yes.
It's going through doldrum. It's in shambles. It's in crisis. Nigerian economy is a mess. Quite frankly, I do not envy the president under this dispensation because he's ascending the presidency at a time that Nigerian economy is in a state of despondency. Permit me to put it that way. Nevertheless, all hopes are not lost, particularly with his renewed hope agenda. He has started very well, and I have no doubt that he's going to turn around things. Now, be that as it may, the question is, how did Nigeria get into this place? I've always like to ask that question. And it's very simple. We got there by virtue of absence of true governance, absence of good leadership. And you discover that over the years, people have just merely occupied political offices without recognizing the leadership expectations that the office demands. In governance, before I move forward, there are two parties in governance. You have the governed, you have the governor. Yeah. Because at the national level, we have the president, who is the governor. At the subnational, you have the state governors.
State governors, yeah.
Right. Now, decisions are taken every now and then. And whoever attempts or aspires to occupy a position of governance must realize that governance is all about the people who are the governed. And anybody occupying that position must understand the concept of governance, must understand the pillars of governance that I'm going to be sharing with you, which I'm also going to be advocating. Many of them, the president has started already. Those pillars, if they are absent in any economy, you won't expect there's going to be good governance. People talk about the Western nations, the advanced nations.
Yeah, there's always, why are they developing? Why are they moving at that speed?
Tolu, thank God that you and I have been privileged to have moved around the so-called Western nations of the world. I personally ask people, the question is, what is the attraction in a Western or developed world? For me, there is no attraction other than a system that works and works effectively.
True.
Take away a working system from the US. What is going to be left? It's going to be in shambles. Take away working system from the UK, what's going to be left? Nothing. South Africa, Japan, these are called developed nations of the world. Now bring a working system to Nigeria. I can tell you, Tolu, Nigeria becomes the best nation, not just best nation, but #1 nation all over the world. Now, like I said, all hopes are not lost. Now, talking about good governance, it's a fusion of two words. We have what? Good and governance. And whoever is occupying that office must understand the concept as a process. What kind of a process? It's a process whereby public institutions, they conduct public affairs. Of course, you know, that's their responsibility. And manage public resources in a manner that will do what? That will secure certain things. That will ensure certain things. What are those things? In a manner that will guarantee, that will deliver, and sustain dividends of governance. How do you do that? Through what? Accountability, through probity, through inclusiveness, through rule of law. I'm going to dwell on those ones as I move forward. Now, like I mentioned earlier, generally speaking, good governance should be anchored on established structures, on processes, on policies, which are formulated and designed specifically to ensure probity and accountability in governance, to ensure transparency in governance, to ensure responsiveness and responsibility in governance, to ensure respect, absolute respect, not just respect, absolute respect for the rule of law, to ensure stability, political stability, economic stability, social stability, all manner of stability, to ensure fairness, equity, to provide infrastructures that will stimulate growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises, and ultimately bring about economic well-being and prosperity to the populace. Now, good governance is about what? Effective leadership. A lot of people occupy offices, and leadership transcends. Good governance transcends just occupying political offices. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we have not been too privileged to have had people who understand leadership. They merely occupy political offices without understanding the demands of leadership, as it were. Right. So, those with responsibility for all of this must understand this. The cardinal issue in governance begins with policy. And when I'm going to talk about policy, I'm going to talk about policy design, policy formulation, and policy implementation. Now, when you are looking at policy administration begins with policy formulation. No matter how brilliantly formulated or designed a set of policies might be, Tolu, if those policies are not effectively, constructively implemented by those who have capacity, don't forget that the president does not have, he can't be the one that is going to be there. He can't be everywhere. Those who have capacity to implement those policies in an effective manner that will deliver the goods, that is when policies begin to, become what? Potent. And that's why the president has started very well. Let's look at the fiscal policy, presidential committee on fiscal policy and the tax reform. Taiwo Oyedele, who is doing a fantastic job. Of course. You know, I am here to see a person who will tell me that, look, something is wrong with the composition of that team. Yeah. Fantastic team. Fantastic. Brilliant team. But you know what? As brilliant as that team is, they're going to formulate. I've been following Taiwo. Taiwo, in fact, one of the things that Taiwo has been doing is giving account. Yeah, and that's really good. Yeah, I saw a detailed breakdown yesterday. About 10 questions. 10 questions. Answered. Fantastic. Go ahead. You know, at every stage, he has broken down his assignment into 3 milestones. You know, by the first 6 months, although we have to pray for him because the timing there is so short. It's short. So we are trusting God. Now, at the end of his assignment, no matter what it is, the committee will come with recommendations. And you know one thing, no matter how laudable those recommendations might be, what will be able to achieve the goals of this brilliantly packaged and designed committee by the president is the ability, the readiness, the commitment, and dedication of the president to implement those policies to the letter. Now, in governance, the focus, the mindset, the actions of those who in governance must be the populace. You take decisions every day. By the time you are taking decisions must be well thought of. You will notice that over the years, those who have occupied political offices have had to take decisions that will end up, backfiring. What they ought to have thought of that they didn't think of. It's like medicine after death. So in taking all those decisions, your thoughts, your action, everything about that thing must center around the populace. You want to be able to find out what will be the implication, because every decision you take has two implications. It's either negative implications or positive implications. I mean, look at what President Bola Tinubu is facing. It's like coming to rebuild a broken home. I mean, to use that language. So these are products of decisions that were not well thought of. However, with the renewed hope agenda of the president, who from all indications, you want to agree with me, Tolu, has demonstrated enough courage, enough confidence, enough bravery, enough dedication, enough readiness, and of course, obvious political will, which has been absent over the years, obvious political will towards providing good governance. Of course, you agree with me that has been lacking in our system over the years. Now, that's why I have to commend the decision of the president to bring together that Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee. And that's a step in the right direction. Now, creation and generation. Let me just begin with this. Now, there is an aspect of this I need to just underscore, which is the need to regain the trust and confidence of people. I was speaking to somebody in Abuja yesterday who simply told me, hey, what is it about Nigeria again? We've lost confidence in the system, political system, economic system. A good governance under an able leadership must be able to operate in a manner that will restore confidence. Which exactly, look at everybody now, all over, even our people in the diaspora. Now they're having a feeling that something is happening in Nigeria. Yes. Something is happening. Yes. Even though it's not going to come at a bread and butter kind of a price. Yeah. We must be prepared to sacrifice. All right? So it's part of what we need to understand. Now, somebody who is going to render good governance must be able to think about boosting or creating employment opportunities. How can we do that? We've talked about it, infrastructural development initiatives. Of course, infrastructural development initiatives that will be able to increase our local capacity, that will be able to encourage real sector development, virtually all our industries, the heart of Nigeria.
We need to promote backward integration.
Backward integration. You have just put it up, make it up. Backward integration. In fact, a combination of backward and forward integration. In other words, we need to develop local capacity whereby our local contents will be met, and we can also embrace export.
Export. Yeah.
Nigeria is we are too import-driven. We are running an import-driven economy. And that's why an import-driven economy will always rely on foreign exchange.
Of course.
Now, the moment our real sector is back, vibrant, of course, production capacity increases, local capacity increases, our visible exports, visible export increases. Our visible import reduces. And what that presupposes is that there will be balance in our, international trade. This balance of payment and balance of trade issues will be on the boost. All right? Now, one other thing I also advocate under this good governance, Nigerians are hungry. I will also advise the president to focus on developing agriculture, taking use of technology, so that we can produce enough. We have what it takes to produce enough for the entire Africa.
There's always that argument, too, that agriculture is not as attractive as it should be, so that youths can get in. Aside from the likes of African farmer Mogaji that I see wearing the suits, branded African farmer, only a few young Nigerians. Yes. But I think tech is now opening the way for youth. So go ahead. And
now, look at, let me talk about Malaysia. Let me talk about Singapore. From what we had, once upon a time, years back, seedlings that are producing the greatest capacity of oil all over the thing, all what to do it, that were making noise. At a point, they were bringing them from Nigeria. How does it start? President Tinubu has started in that direction. Now, look at rice. If Singapore is producing rice, how are they doing it? We can collaborate with all these countries that are doing it and they are doing it well. How are you doing it? We can borrow a leaf from the way they have done it, and we can import that to Nigeria. All right? Beyond this self-subsistence, but of course, we have to tackle the problem of security, which is a menace.
Very important.
Because you discover that a lot of farmers right now, at the point of harvest, they just encounter invasion of herds. And that's another major risk factor within that sector. But I think if we do our research well, if we do our homework very, very well, Nigeria has what it takes, not just to feed Nigeria, but to feed the entire Africa, provided we can leverage on it. Technology is what is driving the whole world. I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
Tolu, I'm also a farmer.
Great.
Yes. No man is talking to you. He's the chairman of Adebayo Farms. So, which means, there are potentials there. Maybe the next time I'm coming, I'm going to come with my fish.
I will talk about agriculture that day.
Yes, I'm going to talk about agriculture that day. So there's a huge potential, beyond self-subsistent agriculture that we are practicing. If only we can leverage on agriculture. The landmass is there. I was talking to a colleague of mine who is in the US. He's using his backyard in New York to plant vegetables. And he tells me, when I have it, he had to spend as much as $600 to buy sand. Do you need to spend $1,000 to buy sand?
No.
The arable lands are there, uncultivated. So which is a major advantage for us, which you can leverage on agriculture.
Time is fast spent, so let's hit the nail on the head now.
Yeah.
What would be some policy suggestions or your suggestions?
Right,
to government?
now,
yes.
I will expect and candidly advise that in implementing this agenda, the president should anchor on these cardinal pillars of governance. Number one, objective formulation and effective policy implementation. Don't forget that I mentioned to you that formulation a policy is one thing. Objectively and effectively implementing it is what is going to drive it. And that can be done through what? Efficient policy monitoring processes and management architecture to avoid monumental fiasco. That's number one. Number two, stewardship and accountability. Accountability in all areas. Right? Number three, probity and transparency. Be open to everybody. Number four, equity and fairness to all, devoid of partisanship, devoid of ethnicity, religion, or creed. I will also advise entrenchment of unfettered commitment. I want to qualify it now. Unfettered commitment to upholding of the rule of law without recourse. Tolu, without recourse to the animal farm philosophy. What do I mean by that? In animal farm, like we read, George Orwell, all animals are equal. But we understand that some are more equal than others. Right. Irrespective of who is involved in political economic sabotage, the law must be able to take its course. It does not matter who is there. So it takes somebody who is firm. And one of the things, one of the things that the president should do in that area, the president must be in charge.
Yes.
He must be in charge. He must stand firm, irrespective of whose ox is God. All right? Now, apart from that, there's also need for, I mentioned it, there's also need for fiscal prudence. Fiscal prudence. Fiscal prudence through efficiency and effectiveness in public finance management system. There are a lot of leakages in Nigerian financial system. Those leakages must be identified.
And blocked.
And blocked. Even if we are not able to totally block them, you can curtail them drastically. Look at oil. We'll be talking about oil theft. Oil theft. What could have been responsible for oil theft? You understand what I'm saying? So it's fiscal federalism must take a different dimension with particular emphasis on what I call efficiency and effectiveness. Of course, zero tolerance for corruption. We cannot run away from that. With the apparatus of the rule of law. There's no way you can fight corruption without the rule of law. Of course, when President of his blessed memory, Yaradua, he came with the mindset that, look, he was going to uphold the rule of law. And I think, and I know, that President Asiwaju has what it takes. To do what? To uphold the rule of law. Because he has the greatest opportunity now to carve his name.
Yes.
He has the opportunity to become the Messiah of this generation. And I can tell you, what else the president wants? By the grace of God, he's contented. So I am sure he's only burdened by the fact that, look at what he's saying. He has, in fact, part of the mandate to Taiwo is that you can't continue to tax poverty. Yeah. He understands that there's poverty in this land. Right? So we must be able to, take all this into cognizance. Integrity, absolute integrity across all levels of governance. Right? Listening to the voices of minority. When people are crying wolves, we want to find out why they're crying. You need to be able to objectively understand and establish their agitations so that you can cater for their interest in governance. I mean, if anybody is crying, there must be a reason. A baby does not cry for nothing.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's like what we read in the news, a toad does not run daytime for nothing. If it's not chasing something, definitely something is chasing it. Right? Now, freedom of expression, of course, that's already involved. Then I'm going to emphasize on this. Meritocracy.
We're going to wrap up on that note, please.
And competence should be promoted and enforced as against mediocrity and unfruitful politicking.
Important stuff. Mr. Peter Adebayo, I know we can go on, and an hour might not be enough to discuss this, but I'm giving you my words that we are going to continue this part of this discussion. A practicing chartered accountant, management consultant, and you see that even in the delivery, lead consultant, chief executive officer, 2612 Consulting, Professional Services. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you, Sheikh.
We really do. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tolu.
All right, then.
I really appreciate it.